Today we are introducing a 6-week series that we have coming up, and it's all about creating relationships that you love. I'm super excited to introduce this series to you guys, and I just wanted to give you a layout of everything that we're going to be covering. The plan is to launch this 6-week series starting on March 21st, which is going to be a Sunday. And we're going to first be talking about managing expectations. And so one of the things that comes up in relationships so often is we get angry and we have all these resentments that build. And we're going to talk about something that the Life Coach School refers to as manuals. And so these series of workshops are going to be all based on the Life Coach School content and Brooke Castillo's work. And this is one of the most fundamentally helpful workshops I think that we can do is talking about expectations and how those expectations lead so often to resentments and arguments and frustrations. And this is going to be a really helpful place to begin with recognizing, she calls them manuals, right? That we have manuals for each other. And sometimes those manuals and those expectations, they're not even communicated. And if we do communicate them, we might communicate them in ways that feel really demanding or are not necessarily communicated with love. And so I think it's really important to understand what are the expectations that we have. And if you have, let's say you have 4 or 5 known expectations, you probably have about 14 that you don't even realize that you're having for your partner, that you're certainly not communicating. And if you are communicating it and it's coming from a place of like frustration or anger, you very likely are not communicating it effectively in a way that your partner is able to receive. And so if your partner is not able to receive and understand where you're coming from, if they're not feeling loved and cared for and seen, then it's going to be a lot harder for them to be willing to honor your request and meet those expectations, right? And so we're going to talk about that in our first week, and then we're going to move into creating boundaries. And I think that's something that all of us can use help with, and it's so helpful to understand what boundaries are, what they're not, and how to really be mindful of the boundaries that you create and why you're creating them. We're going to talk about how to love even when. This kind of touches around the conversation of unconditional love, but how to love even when you're frustrated, even when you're angry, right? How do you love someone even when you hate them in the moment? And how are you able to feel love if you're feeling frustrated, resentful, for example, based on these manuals? How do you move from that resentment into a place of love for your partner? And are you able to hold space for both of those things at the same time? We're going to talk about how to have difficult conversations. All of this work that we're doing around creating relationships that you love. Notice the first word is creating. Create is something active. It's an active word. It's an active thing that you do. It takes work, right? This is not just about relaxing into relationships that you love. This is not just about enjoying relationships that you love, although eventually you will get to that point. But in the beginning, when you're creating or trying to transform a relationship that you're in currently that's having some hardships and some conflicts, these are tools that we're talking about, but you actually have to apply those tools, and it's going to take a little bit of work and a little bit of intention and commitment to going through this process, right? And so one of the things that you're going to need to have in your back pocket is the ability to have difficult conversations, the ability to show up and move through that. And so I'm going to give you a format to be able to do that with. And the 5th workshop that we're going to talk about is how to be a better partner. And so what are the things that you can do and the ways that you can show up in that relationship to make everything easier, to make everything go smoother, in addition to these other tools. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is when to leave and when to stay. And so often we get like decision fatigue around whether to stay at a job or whether to leave a relationship or stay in the relationship. And again, we're going to talk about looking at the decision-making processes that you have, because the way you make one decision is the way you make all your decisions. And so it's really important to understand your reasons for leaving or your reasons for staying. And it's important to know that it doesn't matter which you choose. Whether you choose to leave or to stay is not the important part. It's all about why you chose to do it and also the energy that you made that choice from. If you're telling yourself that I'm not happy in this relationship or I'm not happy in this job, so I need to leave, then I want to submit to you that that is not a very strong place to make a decision from, because the reason that you're unhappy in the relationship is not because of the person or it's not because of the job. It's because of the thoughts that you're thinking and the stories that you're telling yourself. It's because of your mindset around it and the way you're showing up in that relationship. So you can be happy in a relationship and still choose to leave, right? And that's totally okay. But if you're in a relationship and you're telling yourself you're unhappy because of this other person, they don't control your happiness. And if you're telling yourself, I'm going to leave this relationship and go find another one, this one's not making me happy, the next one's not going to make you happy either. No one can make you happy. That's not your partner's job, and they're going to do a crappy job at it if that's your expectation, right? And because they're not able to make you happy, that's impossible. And so that is in your control. And so we're going to talk about that. And all of this stuff, the last thing that I want to say about it too is as we move through this 6-week workshop, feel free to reach out to me, shoot me an email, find me on Facebook, however you need to do to get a hold of me. But let me know if you're interested in moving through this 6-week series with us. I'll make sure you get that information for how to get signed up. But the other thing that I want to mention is to really just make sure that you're taking care of yourself, because this process, like I said, creating relationships you love, it takes work. And so you really need to make sure that you have the bandwidth to be able to show up for your partner, to be able to show up for your relationship and fight for that relationship and create the things that you really want. And so it's going to be important for you to think about getting good sleep and stress management, and what are the things in your life that you need to really make sure that you're taking care of so that you can be filled up, so that you're getting your needs met, and that you have the energy to actually show up for this work. Because these are phenomenal tools, and they'll transform your life, they'll transform your relationship, they'll transform your experience of your relationship. Even if the relationship doesn't end up, even if you decide to leave or they decide to leave, this will all still transform your experience of that relationship, and you'll grow so much by going through it, and you'll be able to carry these things into your future relationships or into the one that you're in right now. And so I want to invite you to join us to learn something new about managing expectations, creating boundaries, unconditional love, how to love even when you're frustrated, which can feel really challenging, or when you're angry, how to have difficult conversations, how to be a better partner, and how to know when to leave and when to stay, and what's the appropriate way to do that so that you're not lying to yourself about what's going to make you happy and then continuing to just repeat the same patterns, leaving a job, going to a new one, having the frustration, and then just repeating those same things over and over again. That's what we want to help you not do. So that's just going to be our introduction to this series that's coming up. Let me know if you're interested, and we will get you the info to sign up. And as we move forward, we're going to talk more about creating relationships you love. So we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.